Diversity. We hear that word a lot and use it in discussions around identity, bias, inclusion, discrimination, and justice. But when we think about diversity in relation to an individual or a group, we often think about it in a somewhat limited way, and that's completely natural. Our brain wants to distill complex information and try to simplify that complexity so we can make use of the information. But that's not always helpful. In fact, that process is one that activates cognitive biases, but that's another topic for another video. Let's think really expansively for a minute about all the various ways a given individual, yourself, for example, can embody or express diversity in your identity. You have a certain ethnicity, you identify with a particular gender or multiple genders, and a particular sexual identity. You're a certain age, you may or may not have family ties to Indigenous cultures. Maybe you yourself are Indigenous. You come from and are currently part of a social class. Perhaps you grew up in a certain religious tradition. Maybe you practice that religion today, or maybe you have a different spiritual practice that's important to you. These are some of the diverse ways your identity expresses certain socio-cultural factors. Your identity is also connected to various systemic factors. For example, maybe you have historical connections to oppressed peoples or groups and traumas such as war, conflict, famine, etc. You were raised in a particular political and social milieu and have been exposed to particular societal norms and expectations. You've had access to certain degrees of opportunity that are likely unique to these types of systemic factors. So far, I've explored only 2 categories of factors that shape your identity today. And I say today because our identities, what makes us different from the person we might sit next to on the bus or work with on a project in the office, what makes us unique and shapes us isn't static, it isn't fixed, it's changing all the time. Who we are today, our life circumstances, our constraints, our opportunities, the people we surround ourselves with, the voices and perspectives that influence us, the financial security we do or don't have, the health we do or don't enjoy. These are factors that shape our identity, and they are also factors by which we might experience greater or lesser advantage in a given circumstance. It can be helpful to understand these in the term intersectionality, which is the interconnected nature of social categorizations we've explored so far, such as race, class, and gender, and how they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. This diagram illustrates the various dimensions of diversity that any one of us might inhabit in any given moment in time. I invite you to look closely at the 5 petals on this diagram. You can download this document from the Equity Sequence Learning platform. Take a moment to appreciate how you are, how each of us is unique. Consider how you exist at any given moment at the intersection of so many social factors, systemic factors, and so on. Appreciate how deeply we can consider the ways our identities might overlap with and diverge from one another. Our diverse identities present such rich opportunities if we collaborate in our work and decision-making. When you appreciate the ways we are different from one another in ways we can interpret like race, gender, and age, and all the ways we can't see like socioeconomic background, life transitions, and more, you can also imagine how it is that when we don't bring diverse voices and perspectives into our work and decision-making, that we can miss the mark. Now let me leave you with a few questions. How well do you know yourself and how factors like the ones listed shape your identity? How well do you know those around you? How well do you know those like customers, users, patients, or students, for example, who are impacted by the work you create and the decisions you make? How confident are you that your work and decision-making will have the best possible outcome for the people you serve? Finally, a little challenge. Next time you practice the equity sequence and you arrive at question 2, push yourself to think more expansively about the many ways you might consider the who in that question. Don't just stop at describing rank and role or gender, for example, but see if you can't dive a bit deeper into the many ways an individual or group might embody or express dimensions of identity and experience that are relevant to the project or decision you're working on. If you want to learn more about intersectionality, we'll link to some recommended books and podcasts in the notes section below.